Hi YouTube. I wanted to give a quick video on how I'm going to set up my Harbor Freight folding trailer. This is a follow-up to the video where I showed pretty much all the construction I did on it. Since this is the first time I need it for this year, I'm going to bring it out and hopefully show some people how I'm folding it up and how it's working for me. So as you can see, I got it set back in the back of my shed here with the sides against the wall, and then I got the trailer folded up, pushed against them so they can't fall down at all. So as you can see, I got I'm a little tight on this wire, but not super tight, and plenty of slack so it can still fold up. And I store it pretty much just like this. At the top here, I got a bungee strap on either the sidewall stakes, holding the two halves together. And down here, I have my bag of goodies, which has all the bolts and also my registration and paperwork that I just keep with the trailer out here, just so I don't lose it. It's always there with it, and this also includes the brackets here. So I'm gonna start with the first step of moving this out, and the first stage is going to be folding down the top half so it's resting on the big wheels. Unfortunately, that also means because I don't have the vertical room, I can't pull this A-frame up first. So I'm going to have to do both at the same time. So I'm kind of young, strong, and stupid, so I'm going to do it all at once, where I'm going to walk out the A-frame as the top as I'm slowly letting the whole trailer fall forward. And then when I come back, I'll show you what to do next. All right. Okay, actually that wasn't that bad. It's actually the first time I was unfolding it. But just like I said, just slowly let the top part here fall down slowly and then just make sure the A-frame here doesn't drag too much on the ground. So the next step is since I have the wheel jack, I'm gonna jack it up on there. Then I'm gonna work on getting the clevis pins into the bottom half of the A-frame. Then we'll continue on. Okay, now we're back, and wanted to show you a couple tricks I did. So while I'm here, so my goodie bag, I got these are all the eyelet bolts that are going to be for the sides. Then I have all the bolts specifically for folding it, what you need to take out, which includes a couple of these carriage bolts and a couple of these regular bolts. Now, like I said before, because the sides are weird, I have both a 5/8 and 17mm opening wrenches and sockets with the 3" extension, just for all possibilities, just in case, whatever's easiest. And then these are the clevis pins for the side here. One of the things I wanted to show you, which I should have took this pin out before. Hold on. I'll edit that part out. Okay. So we got Mr. Clevis pins here that will go into the side of the trailer. And because we have all this extra slack in the wire, we got a fairly low hanging wire here that could easily drag. So what I did is I added a separate zip tie to it, and we're going to put that in the clevis pin. I don't know if you can see that. In the frame here, there's a small gap where I'm going to put the zip tie through, and then we'll be able to put the clevis pin in there, and that'll hold the majority of the wire up, so we only have a minimal amount that's actually hanging down rather than the whole loop, and that'll be a lot better. All right, I'm going to put those clevis pins in, and then I'll come back. Okay, with the pins installed and the zip ties in there, that's not too much wire hanging out down below. Okay, so next stage, undo these bungee straps I have on either side to unfold the back half. And see, I got all this extra wire here, so make sure you have plenty so when you do the folding bit, it doesn't cause any serious issues. Okay, so I'm going to unfold a half, and then we should be getting pretty close. All right. Okay, easily unfolded. You just have to be careful about the wires between the two halves. You have to make sure they don't get pinched in the hinge. So just reach underneath, make sure the wire is free. You don't want to keep pinching it, or especially because if it gets pinched when you're going down the road, it could rub through. All right, so the next part is the bolts, and this is the part that usually a lot of people change. I'm going to advise not changing the bolts. I've seen some people change them to clevis pins and stuff like that in order to try and make it easier. I'm also going to say that because Harbor Freight built this trailer down to a price. They took out as much steel as they physically possibly could in order to just keep it at its limit. So changing the design can seriously compromise it in ways that you just don't quite anticipate. So I'm going to go through and put the original bolts all back in. There are 2 carriage bolts, 2 that go into that angle iron down here, and then there's on either side. Then I think there's 2 in the middle to hold the 2 C channels in the middle together. So it's going to be, unfortunately, this is where the dirty part gets. You have to start crawling in on the floor underneath the trailer in order to get to them. And this is why a lot of people change the design. There's no simple way to get to the bolts. It's to crawl underneath the trailer. So this is the young, dumb, and stupid part that comes in. Young, strong, and stupid? Yeah. Anyways, gonna do it. Let's see what happens. Okay, maybe that was about 10 or 15 minutes. I'll check the timestamps on the videos to figure out how long that actually was. So what I did is there's 2 bolts, 2 carriage bolts each side. There's one back here, which depending on how well or how badly your fender brackets are bent, you might have trouble getting this one in, but you should be able to move the fender out and around to get to it. Push it in through the back and then nut on the other side. And the other bolt is, I think, actually right below here, and the carriage bolt falls down into it, and then you can have a nut from below. Unfortunately, though, because this is pretty much right where the axle, the axle and spring is, so it's not enough room to get a 3-inch extension. So if I was doing that again, I would get a 17-inch long socket, or 17 millimeter long socket, and deep well socket. And that should give you enough room without the extensions to worry about in order to get to it. And then for the rest of it, all I did for the other 2 bolts in the middle, then it was just 5/8 hand ratchet, or hand wrench, 5/8 hand wrench, and then 17 with the extension, and that was plenty fine. But the one thing I did do is make sure to get all the bolts in first, just hand tight, so everything's aligned before we go cranking things down. And I also tightened up the ones on the angle bracket, on the angle iron first, since those are really the key ones, and that gives you the alignment for the rest of it. So okay, so flatbed trailer, if that's all you needed, then you'd be done. You're ready to roll on it. Make sure you check air in the tires, and then check your lights, of course, and check your registration, which I have updated registration. I got to put a new sticker on the plate. But for me, I'm going to put the sides on. So since I got the sides in the back here, I'm going to start putting these on. Now the way I set up these stake brackets, I made sure I set them up so I would have to put in the sides in, which I have conveniently labeled. I believe this is in reference to the driver. Anytime you're working on a car, you always refer to the position of the driver's perspective when you're doing left and right, so keep that in mind. So I always end up having to put the sides in first, and then you can put the front and rear in, and then they'll latch down on top of the sides. So that way you always have to have, that way you can't, it makes no sense to only run with sides, but at least you would have the strength in there. Okay, so gonna do that. I'll put at least the sides on and show you that. Alright, be right back. Okay, easy. It goes together like Legos. Very fast. Okay, so then all the sides I have to get these eye bolts, and these are these wing nuts that I ended up taking a lot of the plastic out of them because these bolts are galvanized, so they make a nightmare in order to get them on by hand. But you take a little bit of the plastic out and they'll still lock fine, so they won't vibrate out, but you'll be able to put them in just your bare hands and take them out easily. And that's about it. Put these 8 of these guys in, and then there's nothing else to do except roll around, pick up a king-size bed or something like that. Cool. All right. Thanks, YouTube, for watching. Enjoy.